Hi everyone, I'm Suman Saurabh in the Hopeful Rant, where we talk with experts about mental and physical well being, work culture, and motivation. Today I have Pushp Lamba with us, who is a teacher, a trainer, and a learner with experience in marketing, soft skill, life coaching, and has been mentoring people to achieve their dreams for 16 years now. Hi Pushp,
Hi, Suman.
welcome to the Hopeful Rant.
Thank you, and thanks for having me over here today.
Push, today we'll be talking about life hacks where I'll try to get insights from you about taking life decisions and knowing my own worth. The first thing which I want to
Yep.
discuss about is why this topic, why hashtag they are wrong.
Okay, in all these 16 years of my experience interacting with people from the school level to university level, from corporates, all these people, whenever they talk to
Yeah,
me as a coach, as a mentor, they always talk
yeah,
about these decisions and scenarios which could have been. So, what is the difference between could have been and should have been? The difference is that they were never able to take those decisions. And why were they not able to take those decisions? Because someone who was more experienced to them, probably someone whose advice they respected, told them not to.
yeah.
Okay. So I thought, all right, this story comes to my mind immediately, which I would like to share with you, and then of course we
Sure,
want
sure,
to
please.
explain why the title they're wrong.
Yeah,
So there is this village which is inhabited by a lot of frogs, and
all right.
they're very a community-based living that they're doing over there. And there is
Okay,
this hill in that village, and one day these 10 odd frogs get together and they say that all right, let's compete and see who gets to the top of the hill. Now the
yeah,
challenge was the hill was a very steep one. It wasn't very slanting; it's steep hill.
all right.
So on the due date, they get together and they are duly accompanied by their friends, families, relatives, and well wishers to cheer them on.
Okay,
The whistle blows and they all start climbing. And the moment they start climbing, they realize that it was much more tougher than that what they thought it to be, because they are falling off the hill. They are not able to climb. They're not able to put a particular. They're not able to make it to even to the middle also perhaps. And when they fall, of course, they're
yeah,
hurting themselves. So soon enough, their relatives and their well-wishers, they start telling them to withdraw from the race before they hurt themselves more
yeah,
grievously. And of course, one by one, they all start pulling back. But then there is this one frog who keeps going, who does not stop regardless of what anyone and everyone who's talking
yeah,
in the background. He keeps on it. He does fall definitely, but then again he tries and then he keeps on trying, and
yeah.
eventually, of course, he succeeds. He reaches to the top. The interesting bit to know about this frog was that he was a deaf
All
frog.
right, okay.
Now, what do I mean? I mean that people around you are going to encourage you, of course, but then of course they might even discourage you. And these people are not necessarily bad people with ulterior motives. These could well be your even your
Yes.
parents who are dissuading you from taking a particular decision because they think that that decision
All
might
right.
hurt
Yeah.
you. But you know what? It's your life. You have to live it. You have to take these calls, which decision to take,
Yes.
which decision not to take. I'm not telling you to rebel. I'm not telling you to, especially, I'm not telling you to be a rebel without a cause. I'm telling you to be a rebel in case you want to be with
Okay.
the cause. You should be confident. You should be basically comfortable in the fact that you can do it. And if you can do it, by all means,
Yeah.
go ahead. Do not pay much heed and attention to what others are saying, because they have their own thought processes. They have their own experiences wherein they might think that they have not come up on top of it. But you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah. And plus, they also must be having their own fear.
Yes, and I mean, if I look at it from a very laymanish perspective, you could be the first Sachin
Yeah.
Tendulkar, you could be the first Don Bradman, you could be the first Albert Einstein, you
Yes.
could be the first Narendra Modi for that matter. You could be that first person who initiates and takes it to the top where others thought that it is not possible. So that's where I came up with this
Okay.
title, that hashtag they are wrong. So they're wrong not because they feel bad or wrong for you, but because they have not
Yeah.
succeeded or they think that you cannot succeed.
Basically, we have to cut off from these external noise, which try to stop you or try
Mhm.
to put their fears on you just because they cannot see the bigger picture of achieving something.
Uh, yes, they cannot see the bigger picture, and plus, they do not have probably the propensity to take the
Yes.
risks, or they are not ready to put in that hard work that you
Yes.
are. The objective, the goal is your passion and not theirs, perhaps. So that is something that could be stopping them. As
Yeah,
simple
now
as
that you
that.
have put it in a different perspective, now the title makes complete sense to me. Yeah. So we are going to talk about decisions in life. So can you explain me what are these decisions?
Okay, so the decisions are twofold primarily: professional decisions and personal
Yes.
decisions. These decisions could be related to something that's going on in your personal
Yeah.
life, to something which is going on in your professional life. And what we are going to talk about today applies to
Yes.
both the lives that you are leading, the
Yeah.
professional and the personal. For students, those who are not in a professional, please understand that the college or the school that you're going to is currently your professional
Yes.
life. So whatever things that anyone listens, be it in a corporate world, someone with 10 years of work experience, someone with 5 years, someone who's joined corporate immediately, or who's even studying, all these decisions, all these information or suggestions that I'm going to share with you today in this podcast are going to be relevant to all of them. Basically, you should be a person who's
Yeah.
about to take a decision, or who's not able to
Okay,
take a
but
decision for
willing to
that
do one.
matter.
So there is this
Yeah.
question in my mind about decision in what space, right? In what area I have to take decisions. It is like it is something I have to listen to somebody, my friends and my peers, or I have to find it on
Yeah.
my own. What kind of
All right.
decisions I have. So where do one start, finding
All
those
right.
answers?
So let me make it very simple for the listeners to of this podcast.
Yeah.
If you are passionate about something,
Yes.
anything, now that could be something about, let's say, in a sport, in music, in studies, in work, climbing up the corporate hierarchy, getting that promotion, anything.
Yeah.
If you are passionate is the keyword. If you are passionate about anything, you have a decision to take. So if you're passionate about, let's say, getting that promotion, there is a decision for you to take.
Yeah, but Push, I guess most of us they don't understand or they don't have a clear picture what I'm passionate about. For example, like I am passionate about many things. That's what I feel, So how will I understand that yes, this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I'll do in a very good way and I should
All
proceed
right.
with this.
Fantastic question, Suman.
Yeah.
Like you said that we could have more than one passions. Okay,
Yes.
so what is it that I go ahead with?
Yes.
Um, take a piece of pen, take a piece of paper and a pen with you.
Yes.
Just draw a line in the center. There are two columns in front of you now. One should be labeled as strengths, and the other should be labeled as weaknesses.
Okay.
Now, you understand that the person who knows you the best is you. There is absolutely no other person in this entire world who knows you better than you. So create that balance sheet of sorts wherein you are maintaining a record of what your strengths are, and every one of us have got some strengths,
Yeah.
and what your weaknesses are, and definitely every one of us have got weaknesses as well.
Yes.
Now take that sheet of paper and look at it. So whatever your strengths are, underneath that create a list of your passions. Connect. those passion with your strengths. Start with your
All right.
strengths. So if there is a connection, you already have created what I like to call a priority
All
hierarchy.
right. Okay.
So priority hierarchy will actually give you, number one, this is something that you are passionate about, backed by a particular strength.
Okay.
This is number two that you're passionate about, backed by a particular strength. And then you look at your weaknesses also. Now, what are weaknesses? Weaknesses are nothing but an opportunity to grow yourself.
Okay.
So if there is a weakness in you, you need to either work upon it to make it strong enough, probably put it into a strength
Yes.
bracket, or you need to work on that weakness to eliminate it to have an impact on your
Okay.
successes. I'll share an example
Sure.
over
Sure.
here.
Sure.
While I was doing my MBA, I have never been very good
Yeah.
with numbers. Okay, so traditionally, I mean, from my school time, I've never been very good
All right.
with numbers. So in a particular semester, I had a subject based on quantitative techniques, that is mathematics, and financial accounting, that is again numbers. So these are, if I were to create a balance sheet at that time, these would have been two
Yeah.
weaknesses that I had. So I had option number one, that I work on this and ensure that I get very good marks in
All right.
these. But what I decided instead was definitely to work on them. Why? Because passing the subject is mandatory for you to move on to your
Yes. Yes.
next
Yes.
semester. So I worked upon these two subjects sufficiently enough to pass these
Yeah.
subjects. That's it. However, the strengths, there were six other subjects in that particular
All right.
semester. So I ensured that I worked so hard on them that I came out on top of them. So I actually became excellent in those subjects. Now, those subjects were to do with some with my core expertise like
Yeah.
marketing, some where I was not very comfortable with, but I ensured that I get on top of them, just to ensure that the number of marks that I'm not going to earn in my subjects of maths and
Yeah.
accounts, I take care of them over there in my strengths.
Yes.
End result, I was the gold medalist for my batch in my
Wow.
MBA. Now, all these small decisions are collectively going to help you become a bigger and a better success in life. So, create this balance
All
sheet,
right. Yeah.
and this is going to give you a very clear cut picture of which decision to take and which to at least park for the
Yeah.
time being and come to it later on.
Yes, yes. So I guess over here, it's about self introspecting, about like finding out the weaknesses and strength inside you. And what I think is that, even if I have some weakness, I should not beat myself down because of it. I should be able to accept it. Like
Definitely.
acceptance has to be a very major point over here in this
Yes,
priority
Suman,
list.
because acceptance of a weakness is half the battle won.
Yeah, yeah, all right, yeah,
Because a lot of people I have met and interacted with, they refuse to accept their
all right, yeah,
weaknesses. Please do not underestimate your weaknesses. Do ensure that you identify them and work upon them sufficiently so that they do not become a bane in your
yeah.
strengths. They do not hamper your success, in
Okay.
other
What do you
words.
think is the main reason behind not accepting it? My own weakness. Is it my ego? Is it my failure to like the acceptance level inside me? What is it?
One single word,
Yeah.
Suman: fear.
All right. Okay.
The reason why we do not accept our weaknesses or we refuse to introspect on them is our fear. The moment we identify that this fear, okay, again, psychologically speaking, why are we afraid of fears? Because we fear, again, that we are going to lose
Yes.
something. So I am afraid of putting on more weight because I fear that I'm going to have
Yeah.
medical issues and eventually I'm not
Yeah.
going to make it. Why am I afraid of talking back to my boss? Because I'm afraid that he might not take very kindly to what I say and I might not be given that promotion or the raise that
Yes.
I'm looking for. So, for everything that I am not taking care of when it comes to weaknesses, the one word at the bottom of it is
Yeah.
fear.
When you talked about, like in someone's professional career, they fear to take some actions, which brings me to a point where I feel that a lot of people, they cannot say no, even in their professional life or even in their personal life. They are not able to say no. So I guess this is also related with the fear which you talked about, right? Maybe because
Yes.
of that fear, people are not trying to able to say no. So how do we introspect that part of ourselves?
So I'm going to answer this in 2 points. Point number one, convert whatever you are about to say to the person who's told you to do a job or some work. Uh, Instead of phrasing it in a negative sentence, phrase it in a positive
Yeah.
sentence. For example, uh, some work has been given to you by your boss to be completed by, let's say,
Yes.
tomorrow morning, and you understand, of course, the disclaimer over here is that you have to be very realistic, that this no of yours is not going to harm your, let's say, your company or your division or your team or something
Yes.
like that. Once that is taken care of, and you have to say no to your boss, let's
Yeah.
approach the boss and talk to him and convert this sentence into a positive. Going back to
Yes.
my example, so you are given a task to complete by tomorrow morning and it is afternoon already. You go and say to your boss, sir, ma'am, is it possible for us to complete it by tomorrow evening? So you're just strategically, very simplistically remove the
Yeah.
negative word no,
Yeah.
I cannot do it by tomorrow morning, to something which is either neutral or positive. Is it possible for us to complete it
Yeah.
by tomorrow evening? So let the other person say no. No, it is not. Because the moment the negative word like no comes out of your mouth, you realize that you are either being
Yes.
too harsh or
Yeah.
you're being unrealistic. And in my 16 years of experience of working in the
Yeah.
corporate culture, as well as taking care of others as a mentor and a life coach, this thing has helped
All
them
right.
tremendously. I am repeating what the solution is.
Okay.
Okay. Point number two, and which is a very important point, is that you should know your self-worth.
All right.
So moment you have to say no to something, you have to know your self-worth. What do I mean by that? I mean that, am I actually going to do this successfully, or am I going to do an average job of it,
Yes.
or I cannot do it at
Okay.
all? So one of these three things I have to answer to myself before I go ahead and take a decision to say no. So if I know my self-worth, I have the answer ready with me. I can go back to my balance sheet if I need to know my self-worth, the balance sheet that we talked in the
Yes.
first part of this
Yeah.
podcast. And the moment I have the balance sheet with me, it becomes a very easy decision for me to take in case I am a little skeptical or ambiguous or confused about my decision.
All right. So basically, the strengths of the list, they will tell me if I'm worth the job I'm going to do or not. And the negative ones, if I accept the negative ones, then also I'll be able to identify my worth. That all right, fine. This is a weakness in me, but I have to do this job. So I'll try to achieve it till here. So even if I achieve it till an average point, I should reward myself, you know. Yes.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that list comes in very handy, and I guess understanding your own worth. Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
so later, after this, I want to come to a point where, yes, obviously, you talked about, how to take decisions and where to start from, like learning about, understanding about what kind of decisions you have to take. It's basically about exploring all your skills and your strength and weaknesses. And then later, how will I work on those decisions?
Okay. So, for anyone, any person, any professional, any student, anyone who's working, or for that matter in your
Yeah.
family life, for you to be successful, there is a two-step
Yeah.
process. One, you have to believe in yourself. So the self-worth that we spoke just a couple of
Yeah.
minutes back comes into play
Okay.
over here. Suman, this life that we are all leading, the conversations that we
Yeah.
have, there is something like that I like to call as transference of feelings that
Okay.
happens. What do I mean by that? I mean that if I am confident about something that I can
Yeah.
do, I can convince you also that I will be
Okay.
able to do
Yes.
it. But if I'm not confident about what I can do, there is 0% chance that I will be able to convince anyone that I will be able to do that
Yes.
particular
Yeah.
task. So the first thing that you do is to convince yourself that you can do
Yes.
it. So again, that list is going to come
Yeah.
into handy because you know your strengths, you know the weaknesses which can be removed or mitigated, and you know in your mind and heart that you can do it. So you become that deaf
Yes.
frog that we talked about at
Yeah.
the beginning of this podcast, where the external noises stop bothering you.
Yes.
You become a person who is consumed by your passion. You have that passion in you, and you know that you have that skill set
Yeah.
in you, or you can develop that skill set in order to achieve that particular goal, whatever you have thought of
Yeah. And
achieving.
during the whole
So that is
process,
step
you
number
will
one.
also have to accept your negatives and move forward with
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes, you have to take your strengths and weaknesses in a single sheet of paper and move on with life.
Yes.
Work on
Yes.
it. So, step number one is believe
Yeah.
in yourself. What you can do, you
Yes.
know it. You have to be the best person to take a decision on what you can do and what
Yeah.
you
And
can't do
keep
for that
talking to
matter.
yourself about
And
this
the
every moment and all. Yeah.
Absolutely, you
Yes.
should. So if you're sitting for some competitive exam and you have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, you should have a big sheet of paper printed right in front of you. The first thing that you get up from the bed, you should do, you should look at that sheet, and sheet should say, you can do
Yeah.
it. And that gives you that motivation to achieve and work for whatever goals that you have
Yeah.
worked on,
Yeah.
thought of. So the second point, there is another point, like I said earlier, there are 2 points. The second point that you have to keep
Yes.
in mind after you have already convinced yourself that this is a goal
Yeah.
that you can achieve is that you have to act on those goals, act on those thought processes, those decisions that you have told
Yes.
your own self. Now, this might sound very, very silly also to some people that I have already believed in myself.
Yeah.
Isn't that sufficient? The answer is
Yes.
no, it is not. You will be surprised to see and hear and know that people around you, and for that matter, probably for some things, even you or me also, we keep on thinking that we can do it, but we somehow never get down to doing
Yes.
the stuff. What stuff?
Yeah.
Preparing for that stuff, doing it, executing it. So that is the difference, big difference between people and
Yeah.
successful people. Successful people are those people who have actually worked on those decisions that they took in step one
Yeah.
of believing in themselves. And then in step two, they actually go ahead and do that stuff, execute that stuff, whatever is there to achieve that
Yes.
particular goal. So, I can give you n number of examples. Like, for example, a very popular example is that of Edison, Thomas Edison, the
Yes.
famous
Yes.
scientist, the Nobel
Yeah.
Award winner. He actually invented 10,000
All
light
right.
bulbs before he could come to the right light bulb that you and I are
All
using
right. Yeah.
nowadays. So he actually very popularly he called that as that I have not failed 10,000 times. I have actually known 10,000 ways of not doing the right thing.
Yes, yes, perfectly said. Yeah, completely agree with you. All right, Push. So I think that's it here. And before like wrapping this thing up, I would like to ask you. I would like to know your views. What you would want to give to our listeners who are facing this problem of not understanding what they want to do, and even after they have understood what they want to do, they're not able to do it. So what do you want to say to them?
I would like to say only two
Yeah.
things at the end. One, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
There is no better person on this planet better than
Yeah.
you. Second, act on your beliefs. Do not let the external noise disturb your inner peace, inner decision making. Let that not hamper your growth. You know yourself the best. You know your strengths and weaknesses. Create that balance sheet. Keep it at a place where you can refer to it off and on.
Yeah.
And always remember, they are wrong.
Yeah, that's a very positive note you have brought this to. And I'm very sure our listeners could find their own perspective in the whole discussion we have had in this podcast. I'm really thankful to you.
Thank you, Suman, for having me on the Hopeful Rant. And I hope whatever we spoke about is going to help people take their decisions
Yes,
and believe in themselves.
absolutely. Thanks a lot, Push.